Hello and welcome to another highly anticipated lore video. Because you know what? Just Dance has lore, and if you're here, that means you're interested. Today I'm gonna take you on a trip down the Danceverses, a little bit like our friend Wanderlust. And why should you listen to what I have to say? I never usually do that, but I thought for this video I'll give you a quick introduction to who am I. My name is Astylia, and I've been playing Just Dance since 2015. It was a love from first sight. My very first map was Black Widow, and the rest is history. I started streaming in 2018 and have been streaming ever since, almost 5 years now, baby. I am a Ubisoft star player, which means I was part of the announcement for Just Dance 2020. I have been over at the Ubisoft studios multiple times for different workshops, seminars, and most recently for the launch of Just Dance 2023, which means that I have the extremely privileged position to be able to very delicately ask our one and only mother-of-law, queen of all, certain questions. Today, I have asked her about what are the Danceverses, how many there are, what maps fall into them, how to travel them, and I want to take you on a journey. Because guess what? I spent a week trying to put together a fantasy map only to realize everything's already in game. So if you think there's no lore left in the current game, my friend, you are wrong. I'll take you through each Danceverse. We'll talk a little bit about what it looks like. I'll tell you exactly what Aro said to me about each Danceverse, and we'll make some speculations which I will mark down so you know what's confirmed and what isn't. Let's start off with a very obvious one. What is a Danceverse? And in the words of Aro, a Danceverse is a world, more like a planet, that sits in a galaxy of Just Dance. They don't border, they're not continents, they're literally planets. And now, what does that remind you of? Do you guys remember that very long intro of Can't Stop the Feeling? Yeah, those are the Danceverses. In Can't Stop the Feeling, Wanderlust goes to Earth and picks up Sarah, who's a human. And I would like you to pay extra attention to how they enter the Danceverses, which is also what the playlist is called. They're traveling through that tube, and look at all those planets. Well, my friend, those planets are the Danceverses, and we know which one is which now. So it was always in the game if you've ever wondered. The concept of a Danceverse is actually not something new to Just Dance 2023 edition. It was first introduced in the All Stars mode, which Aro make reference to very recently in the lore video they posted. In the Just Dance 2020 All Stars mode, the Panda traveled exactly 10 planets to meet previous coaches and sometimes new coaches. I'm not sure whether the Danceverses were all fully finalized at the point of the All Stars mode launching, but that was the beginning. That was the birth of all the Danceverses. Now we know what the Danceverses look like and roughly how they're situated. Let's talk a little bit about how you can travel them. Very recently, Aurora actually confirmed that there's multiple ways to travel the Danceverses, as opposed to just casting portals like Wanderlust and Night Swan, as we've seen before. You can actually hop on what's called a starship and move from one Danceverse to another. Quite convenient. I hope the tickets are cheap as well. That was actually first introduced again in the All Stars mode back in 2020, where our Panda hopped on the starship and traveled all different 10 Danceverses while getting on more coaches on the way. So any coach can theoretically travel to any Danceverse. That's why we know that, for example, Arlene from ABCDEFU traveled from Dancity to Carnivallium. With the conventional way of traveling aside, which is via starship with literally getting on public transport, there is one other way to travel, which is by casting portals, as we've seen Wanderlust and Night Swan do that in their respective maps and other maps as well. We've also seen the Traveler do this, so it seems that people with great power can actually basically teleport from one Danceverse to another without waiting for the traffic that probably is the starship's highway. How do they actually manage to open those portals. There is something about the concept of flow. And now I want you to put yourself in a very Star Wars situation. The concept of flow is basically a force. In order to acquire and feel flow, you need to dance. Everyone in the Danceverses can feel the flow, and the more they dance, the more they feel it. They can use the flow for different things to our knowledge, one of which is casting portals. Now, can everyone cast portals? According to Aurora, the answer is no. And I'll read you exactly what she said to me when I asked her about the concept of flow. All coaches can feel the flow while dancing, but not everyone can use the flow. And that's where our friend, the Master Panda, comes in, with the temple and Mihaly being probably a pupil of his. Clearly, you can master the flow to a degree where you can use it, but it's really cool that all the coaches can feel the flow. It's a little bit like the Force in Star Wars. So the Force is all around you, but only the select few, only the chosen ones, Wanderlust, only the chosen ones can master the flow so they can travel. Otherwise, everyone else just goes on the Starship bus, okay? That's the tea. Now we've seen the Danceverses, we talked a little bit about how to travel them and the rules of flow. Let's talk about what are the Danceverses. There are 10 Danceverses where coaches can come from, with the exception of 2 more, which are not quite classed as Danceverses. For the purpose of this video, I will mention that Earth exists in the grand universe of Just Dance, which is where Sarah comes from. Also, coaches from other licenses like Disney or KDA. Also, coaches that are real life people like Ava Max. Earth is not necessarily part of the lore of Just Dance, but it is a mentioned piece of it. The 12th Danceverse, which is not exactly the Danceverse, is the space. Is the place where all of our 10 Danceverses exist. There are certain maps that happen in the space, which are not part of a specific Danceverse. Examples of maps that happen in space are the Space Hotel, where Rock Your Body happens, the Asteroid Nightclub, where the coaches of Sweet Sensation perform, and the Flow Nebula, which is where the map Lights by Ellie Goulding happens. Now, with that out of the way, let's start with the ones we definitely know of. There's mentions of 5 Danceverses in and around the Just Dance 2023 assets, or of mentions on Twitter by either the Lawmaster or the Twitter account. Probably the biggest one that comes to mind to you is Dancity. Dancity is undoubtedly one of the most popular Danceverses. In here you can find Thank You Next Coach, Grace, and our Just Dance High School. You can also find Scarlet's Palace and the performance that we very recently saw there, Angelina and Luke Cypher. You can find La Solar Mall, which is where Braziana likes to do her aerobics routines with other people. You can also find Knowledge Central, which is part of the nerd alternative version of Born This Way. It's also where you can find Polo and Ruben, our mood and danger high voltage alternative coaches, in their student pad as they go to the Just Dance Dancity University. In Dancity, you can also find the Dancity bus, which is featured in Obsession from a previous Just Dance game. And most notably, you can see our wannabe coaches performing at Main Drag Northside. Also in Dancity, you can find the Dancity Stadium, where our Waka Waka alternative coaches do that very funny bike. In Dancity as well, you can find one of my favorite coaches, Amanita, and the 3 goofy superheroes from the maps Without Me and Without Me Alternative. Dancity is a very urban landscape, and every map that has a bright-ish, colorful city connection likely happens in Dancity. It's a beautiful sights to see, lots of performances, lots of education and culture. The second most prominent Danceverse is Wasterra. Wasterra is this dry wasteland defined by this very post-apocalyptic feel to it. It's in the far west and is described as being a desert. Very notable coaches here are of Boomboya coaches from Blackpink. Also, Old Time Road. We interestingly also have I Knew You Were Trouble or Talia Sway. Now, Talia Sway's map makes references to the Wake Me Up map from Avicii from a few years ago. And just to put that into context, there is a background from the Avicii map, which is quoted to be the Reservoir of Hope. The Reservoir of Hope is located in Hope Valley, And Hope Valley is also the home of Hit the Road Jack alternative coaches, you know, the line dances and stuff. Another confirmed map here is Bang Bang Bang, or Admiral J or General J in his oil reserve. There's something very ominous about this character. I hope we get a little bit more information, but he clearly seems very greedy, slick, and definitely more on the villain side. Wasterra is a place where we might not want to be, but those who have acclimated to living there probably quite enjoy it. If I'm to make a guess, I would say the Little Mix Woman Like Me coaches also live here. Anyone else who has a very Western feel to them also lives here. That's probably your, you know, wild, wild west style Danceverse with very little water. But of course, there's also Hope Valley, because why wouldn't there be hope in the Just Dance Danceverse? We know that Arlene was very upset with her ex and moved from Dancity to Carnivallium. And that is our third mentioned Danceverse. Carnivallium is basically a show, circus, clown style universe. I'm assuming that people who come from Carnivallium all possess some kind of performance skills. Some of the known maps that happen in Carnivallium are Dance Monkey. There's also a background for Dance Monkey, which is called the Royal Carousel. So this is where Dance Monkey is performed. Another map that comes from there is clearly Circus. Circus, probably both versions of Circus come there from Britney Spears, and it happens in the Circus of Lights. If I'm to guess, probably the map Bang Bang comes from Carnivallium as well. Other maps such as Funhouse by Pink is also in Carnivallium. So basically think some sort of traveling circus performance area. We don't know much about the landscape of this Danceverse. There was a bit of a conflicting information on where exactly the Lover Coaster is. We know that the Lover Coaster that Arlene made is in Carnivallium. But there was this dancer app that said that the Lover Coaster theme park is in Dancity, so I'm not entirely sure where it is. If I'm to make a guess here, it is actually in Carnivallium and not in Dancity, but feel free to correct me, this is just my own interpretation. It sounds like a very cool place to be. But this is our third Danceverse that is mentioned. I know you've always wondered where Rasputin comes from, and I'm here to tell you that Rasputin is from the Danceverse called Winterhaven. And Winterhaven is quite a Christmassy Danceverse. It is characterized by winter, ice, cold, and the magic of Christmas. So naturally, think about things that's there. Probably a twerking deer as well. But another interesting map is temperature. And yes, Sarah and Wanderlust do visit Winterhaven in their map of Can't Stop the Feeling too. It's probably also housing maps such as Moscow from previous games. But one interesting one that the lore master confirmed to me that is housed there is She-Wolf. So let's just hope that that's a little reference to the fact that this will come on Just Dance Plus. Although cold, I'm assuming that Winterhaven is quite a fun place to be. I'm just thinking about the things of Think About Things and all the fun little bits. I'm just imagining hot cocoa with some marshmallows. And of course Rasputin's right there. Yeah, Rasputin. I think that's how you should remember Winterhaven. Just, you know, cold, Rasputin, Christmas, because these things definitely have lots to do in common. And that is Winterhaven for you. And now from the cozy Christmas vibes of Winterhaven all the way to the darkest universe called Eternyx, and personally probably my favorite. Eternyx is, as I mentioned, the darkest universe, and it houses our misfits. I don't think the sun goes out in Eternyx at all. Notable maps that we've already discussed in the past is obviously Witch. Our Night Swan Queen happens in Eternyx, which is where she is from. Her specific city is called Cyrus. Might not be correct on this one, would need proper spelling for this, but you could see the buildings of that particular city in Eternyx in her eye as her map begins, and also at the very end of Majesty as she casts herself a portal to leave to her place of origin, which is Cyrus in Eternyx. Her Swan Tower is in Eternyx as well. Other confirmed maps we have are Good Ones and Multigun Script. We also know that Potion Alley and the Witch's Manor from the map Boss Witch is also in Eternyx. And we just recently got confirmed that Liv and Blake from Bring Me to Life also are from Eternyx. We know that Luke's cipher was born from the goddess Dirkis. We're gonna talk a little bit more about where the gods live, but we know that he moved to Eternyx because he liked the nightlife in there. Apparently there's fantastic nightlife in Eternyx, and you know, 10 out of 10 would go party in Eternyx again. Other maps I'm assuming also live in Eternyx would be maps such as Maneater. Anything that has dark neon sort of vibes to it, a little bit more of a misfit-y. Anything to do with villains, anything to do with a bit of grit or struggle would also happen in Eternyx. I'm assuming that the map The Way I Are happens in Eternyx as well. We shall see, not confirmed yet. It's a very important Danceverse in my opinion. Have a think and let me know down below in the comments, who else do you think is in Eternyx? Eternyx is clearly a Sin City vibe Danceverse. It's very dark and gritty. Clearly, there's no rules of how to live there, and you know, some people live better than others. It's clearly where Night Swan managed to create all of her army and where she's housing them. So I'll leave you with that on Eternyx. Which is where I'm from, by the way. So yeah, I was born in Eternyx. Oh my god. Now this confirms the 5 known Danceverses. Do you know what? There's another 5. And the lore master kindly confirmed which one are there to me. Now I'm gonna send you on a vacation to the most glorious sunny Danceverse called the Sun Horizon. Sun Horizon is a Danceverse that is an endless party and vacation. I want you to imagine sun, I want you to imagine holding a coconut drink in your hand, endless beaches, towels, play, party, summer and spring vibes. One of the maps that resides in Sun Horizon is Bayana, and there is a mention of the jungle rhythms background from Just Dance 2023 assets. There is also mentions of who I also assume is in there, which is the Melody Bay, where all of our Tel Aviv coaches are. The Bay of Peace and Love, which is the background for La Bicicleta, which is where all of our Latino songs are housed apparently too, because you know, why would Latin vibes not have something fun and beachy about them? It makes all the sense, of course. Another confirmed map from Sun Horizon is Jerusalem, also known as Ish. 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 Inside joke, didn't get that? That's fine, moving on. I want you to imagine maps such as the Ketchup Song or Boys, Boys, Boys. Everything that has some sort of beach, vacation, party vibe happens in Sun Horizon. Sun Horizon sounds so far like the most fun Danceverse, at least to me, because I love holidays. We can also see it in the Can't Stop the Feeling map, where they pick up our I Like It coaches from there with all that beach and the little jetty, and it's so much fun. So there you go, Sun Horizon. Next, I want to take you to the most futuristic Danceverse. It's called Cyberfunk. And as soon as I read it out from the notes that the lore master left for me, I thought, oh my god, that has to be Love Me Land, Freya, and the Virtualscape. And it's not. It might be, but she didn't confirm it. It is described as being futuristic, cybernetic, net, and neon. Example maps in here would be New World. You guys know how much I love New World. I'm thinking instantly something very Japan-like, something very urban, but with like spaceships flying around. Another example map is Side to Side by Ariana Grande, which we very recently got into Just Dance Plus. There is a background from that map specifically, and it's called the Space Dock. So I imagine the Space Dock has to be on the Danceverse Cyberfunk. Additional examples here given to me are Come Back Home and Blinding Lights. Definitely, I think, excellent examples to kind of describe what this Danceverse should feel like, but very neon, very futuristic. I'm assuming all of our robots, all of our robot coaches would live here. Robots such as Automaton would probably be here. It's an interesting Danceverse that I would definitely want to hear more about. Like, science is what rules there, and, you know, scientific progress. I also suspect that Wanderlust and Sarah actually visited that particular Danceverse. You can see them on a tube or metro, subway, whatever you call it in the country you live in. They seem to be on some sort of subway that circles a planet. I'm guessing that this is Cyberfunk. As you can see, it's very futuristic. I don't know what else could come into here, but basically think anything cybernetic, anything neon, anything futuristic feeling should be coming from Cyberfunk. Now, I hear you wondering, where do all of the troll maps live? Yeah, we do have a Danceverse for that. But okay, I'm not gonna be that sassy. It's not a troll Danceverse. It's called WackyGroove, and it houses all of our goofy characters. It's also characterized by being cute, fun, alien, and future. I'm not sure what the future had here, but that's what the lore master gave to me as keywords for this Danceverse. WackyGroove houses the following confirmed maps: Zuzu and Dudu from Zooby-Doo. Shocker, I know. Stupid Love. Interestingly, Malibu. Again, maybe because it has cupcakes in the background. And Daisy, which is our coach called Belize or Bellis. And she is the manager of the Rainbow Slime Factory, according to this tweet. Now, WackyGroove, I imagine, is just basically every silly, funny, colorful map that features on Just Dance. Chacaron was not mentioned as living here. So, I don't know, unless Chacaron is some sort of deity that doesn't belong into any Danceverse, I'm assuming that Chacaron lives here. But every other kids map, anything to do with aliens as well, I'm not sure where our aliens from Wet Tennis come from. I would place them in here as well in WackyGroove, as we do have alien as a keyword. People like the coach from Me Too perhaps comes in here. Everything that's fun, cute, goofy in some way should be living in WackyGroove. It feels like basically a land made out of candy. I would love that. Now with the wacky Danceverse out of the way, we're left with 2 more Danceverses to talk about. And both of them seem pretty magical. And as I said magic, let's start with the most magical one of them all. It's called the Melosia Realm, or also known as the Melosia Realms. It is characterized by magic, fairy tales in general. I kind of struggled if I was to think on my own what exactly falls in here. So the lore master was kind enough to actually give me examples, and I'll go through them with you. Now the first one she gave me is Adeo, and Adeo just recently had a background added to Just Dance 2023 edition as part of an unlockable background if you have Amazon Prime. It is called The Ruins of Fate Temple, and the tagline is only the guardian decides who may enter the water and who may not. It's really interesting. It looks quite magical. The background is beautiful, obviously. I guess think of it more of a magical either forest or castle setting. The other example she gave me is Psycho. I presume both Psycho Classic and Extreme, or Easy version and the Extreme version. It is set up in this castle that is kind of distorted as well if you pay attention to the background. So interestingly, lots of castle-y vibes and lots of knights, but maybe a little bit more distorted than usual. The next 3 that she gave me as part of the Melosia Realms are quite interesting. She mentioned Naughty Girl. Now, Naughty Girl is one of my all-time favorite maps from Just Dance 2018, but we haven't heard of Naughty Girl in a very, very long time. Naughty Girl is clearly set up in a Middle Eastern or African style castle in a very old-time magical, Sahara Desert style royalty. And if you ask me, Naughty Girl is in the same realm as the coaches from Buttons, so I would love to see them return. And there's clearly a part of Melosia realms, some of which are very green, some of which are very castle-y, some of which might have to do more with a Arab princess, who knows. The next one there is Zenith. We talked about Zenith in our villains video, as I somehow suspected that she's a villain, and she's definitely not. So Zenith, our Michio coach with Chitsuki, which is the spirit that she was calming down, are clearly also part of the Melosia Realms. It appears that the Melosia Realms are just magical places that could have very distinct, very, very distinct climates to one another and very distinct visual settings and landscapes and environments. To continue our castle journey here, the last one given for the Melosia Realms is Provenza. Provenza is one of the most recent maps added to Just Dance Plus as part of the Lover Coaster, and it's set up in the underwater castle that Calypso has. I think it was a gift to her. Also, Triton went and visited her, and that's how Provenza happened. That entire very, very forever alone but romantic dance with Provenza. So I think this helps us frame our view of the Melosia Realms. They're not necessarily this urban setting like Dancity, or this very distinct post-apocalyptic feel of Wasterra. They're more just this pockets of magic that have their own little rules around them, and it's probably one of the most ambiguous so far in terms of what sits there. But think royalty. I think this is probably the main word I'm thinking here. Royalty, blue blood, castle, magic, temple, just anything and everything around history that has to do with magic. And congratulations, you made it. We're at our last Danceverse. Arguably one of the most important ones. The last Danceverse is called Floworld. And Floworld houses all of our deities, all of our gods, goddesses, all of our heroes, and all of our legends. Everyone that is some kind of a god, goddess, deity in general, a hero as well, or a legend of some kind comes from this Danceverse. Danceverse's name on its own features the word flow in it, which we already discussed is the force of the entire galaxy of Just Dance and all the Danceverses. It probably means that this is the Danceverse that everyone's born with flow, which instantly makes me think of the Traveler, Wanderlust, Nova, all those people who seemingly were born for a higher purpose. We know that Wanderlust cannot take his crown off because he needs to serve his purpose. I would make a guess that Wanderlust comes from Floworld. I was given a few examples on here of who actually is coming from Floworld, and the first example is the coaches from Woman, and that makes, honestly, perfect sense. The four goddesses and the all-mother goddess Silius. So we have Regnir, Bellicus, Dirkis, who's the mother of Lucifer, and Dusset. They seem to be roughly representing being goddesses of fire, earth, wind, water, something like that. I'm not sure what Regnir is a goddess of, but maybe someone can tell me. Clearly Dirkis is the goddess of fire, as confirmed from the Twitter post. And then we also have their mother, or the all-mother version, called Celios. Now, all of these names have somewhat rooted meaning in different mythologies. Some I found have been Greek, others might be a bit more Nordic, but we're talking about true deities right here. Another map that lives in the flow world is Maito. We don't know the name of Maito, but we do have a reference to a background. And the tagline says, "Do not try to get past Khan Dake, or you may never be seen again." And it depicts the portal of no return. This fits straight into the flow world. The two other examples she gave me were Dark Horse, so the coach from the Katy Perry song Dark Horse. She did look like she fit more in the Melosia Realms to me at first, but if we were to have her as a deity versus a princess, that makes much more sense. And then the last example is Ugly Beauty. It's a map I don't really think a lot about, and I might have mistaken it and again put it in the Melosia Realms instead of Flow World. But these two Danceverses overlap with the amount of magic that exists in them. And that's what we know about the Flow World. At the very end of the All Stars journey, we landed at High Hopes, which has a very Spartan Coliseum feeling to it. And I'm gonna hypothesize that the last planet of the All-Stars mode is Flow World, which is where everyone suddenly has all these powers. And this will kind of fit in with the theme of legends and having legends live in Flow World as well. So that was the 10 Danceverses of the Just Dance universe. I hope you found this helpful. But for a last thing to do is let's try and guess which planet from Can't Stop the Feeling intro is which Danceverse. Starting right at the beginning, and the first place that Wanderlust and Sarah go to is this very urban looking planet with these skyscrapers and laundromats coming out of it and washing machines. I would guess that this is Dancity, and that is where we meet Liza from TGIF map. Over to the left from what is clearly Dancity, you can see a Ferris wheel. you can see a circus tent, and you could see the entrance to the roller coaster Arlene built. I would go ahead and make a safe guess that this is Carnivallium. Moving to the right from Dancity is this very blue, icy looking planet, and that should be none else but Winterhaven. It just makes no other sense. It has to be that, right? Moving on from the very icy Winterhaven to one right and up, where we see beach, inflatables, sand, and a little umbrella and a drink. That just has to be Sun Horizon. These were the obvious ones. Let's try and make some guesses about the rest. If we go down from Sun Horizon one a little bit, we're probably landing at what I'm guessing is Cyberfunk. I'm guessing that because it looks very futuristic, it looks robotic, and when Wanderlust and Sarah got there, people were wearing like cosmic stuff, and there was the tube we talked about, or the overground, etc. So to me, at least, I feel that this makes sense. This little planet right above, in the configuration at least, right above Dancity, with the little crack middle and what clearly looks like some cacti, is probably Wasterra. It might not be, but it does look dry enough with a very typical cactus imagery on it. So I would guess that that's Wasterra, which leaves us with the planet right behind the writing. Now you could see from that planet that there is these big, massive looking flowers and these whales swimming in the air. This is also the last Danceverse that Wanderlust Sarah and everyone else visits, and they dance all together. This is also the place where Night Swan steals them from. So we can get a bit more of a feel. It does look like a dry planet, but also very magical. So I would go ahead and guess that this is the Melosia Realm. I'm not sure why it's the Melosia Realm. It just looks a little bit magical to me. We are then left with a bunch of random planets that might be there just for decoration or might not be. Who knows? The one between Sun Horizon and Wasterra does look a little bit dark. So I would go ahead on a limb and say that this might be Eternyx. At least the way it looks makes sense for it to be Eternyx. And then we're left with a very normal looking planet on the top left, with a ring around it, which would then probably make sense for it to be Floworld. We're not sure. I can't exactly pinpoint which universe is which, especially from the assets. Also, if you go back to the All Stars mode, some of them are a bit more obvious than others. We know that Admiral and General J is from Wasterra, and they're featured on their own map. We have Sun Horizon for the California Girls coaches. Also guessed that High Hopes is Floworld, but they might have not been quite finalized back at the day when 2020 was created. So it's not very clear which Danceverse is which precisely, but we can make our guesses. But now, you know what the 10 Danceverses are, and you can start making your own guesses for every new map that comes in. How about you go back and try and tell me what Danceverse is each map part of? I think it would be cool to create a little table of exactly what world each map falls into. Thank you so much for watching this video. I had a lot of fun putting it together. Massive, absolutely massive thank you to Aro and the JD team who provided all that information for me and obviously allowed me to share it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you want to come dance with me and probably talk lore on stream, please feel free to do so. I stream on Twitch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There is Instagram, Discord if you want to come chat. There's Twitter. Apparently I have a TikTok now as well. So go ahead, follow me there. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave me a comment. What do you think? What's your favorite Danceverse? And why is it Eternyx? But I love you all. Thank you so much for being with me, and I will see you on the next lore video or dance video, whichever one's first. I can't wait for second season. It's about damn time we get a second season Just Dance. I love you all, and I'll see you very soon. Now travel the Danceverses with me.